Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Tonight is September 8th, 2014. It is now 6:05 p.m. First item on the agenda is review. Add or remove any items. Is there anything, Darlene, that you need to remove?
No, I don't
add?
think so. I think we're good.
Okay. Anything to add, Steve?
No.
Okay. Do we have a bill schedule?
Yes, sir, we do. There we go. So we have 2 items.
Perfect. Okay, so Cheryl and then just a FedEx.
FedEx is for a rain specimen.
Okay. I had to drive mine in last week.
That's a long drive.
There you go. For you guys especially, yeah.
Motion to accept bill schedule as presented.
I second the motion. Aye.
Aye.
Next item is the approval of minutes for 8/11/2004. Oh, I need a pen. I forgot to sign.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks. Approval of minutes for 8/11/2014. I read through them. I did not see anything that needed to be changed. Did you notice anything, Steve?
Motion to accept board meeting minutes of meeting 8/11/14.
Second motion.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. At this point, we can move on to director's issues and old business, if you want to start there until
Sure.
we open up for the hearing at 1:15.
Sure. So I wanted to just bring to your attention the emergency preparedness. September is National Preparedness Month, and the governor has sent out a declaration for that purpose, basically trying to bring awareness for everybody to have at least something set in place at home. I think last week was a good example of the torrential downpours and all the lightning across the state, tornadoes touching down. Basically, everybody just in their own home, just to get some thinking of getting prepared. So whether you have a couple of flashlights, some bottled water in the basement, some canned goods, candles, extra medications, anything that you would need if there was some sort of outage, even for a small amount of time, just to have that kind of mentality to look at preparedness and giving it some emphasis this month. It kind of brings us into the winter months when we start getting a lot of snow, but this is kind of a nice easy month to start thinking about it and bringing awareness to it. So we have posted some literature to the website in the declaration, and some sample emergency kits that people can do. So that is out there, and to get people thinking. Also, for the end of September is National Take Back Day. The drug awareness over the past several years has adopted a National Take Back Day. They have one in September, and I think they also do another one in April. And the DEA with EPA, they again want to bring awareness to this, basically to get drugs, any prescription meds, any expired meds that you have in your medicine cabinet, anything that you haven't used up, to basically get it out of those areas where it can be accessible to people that are vulnerable to it. As you are aware, we do have the take back unit at the police station. We emptied it just recently. We had over 75 quarts of pills and meds that we disposed of. So again, because it is a September thing, we just want to highlight the fact that those those things are going on. September is also a good time that we're starting to get ready, believe it or not, for flu clinics. We'll be doing flu clinics in hopefully sometime in October. We are going to be expecting vaccine hopefully in the next coming weeks. And so once we have the vaccine, we'll be able to start planning some clinics. We always start with our seniors first. So we will have our senior population, we'll set up a clinic up at the senior center. And I'll let you know, obviously, when we start coordinating those clinics. So that expected delivery is going to be coming. And then we also did something new this year as well. The billing for that we can do for the administration of the shot, not for the actual vaccine, but for the nursing that can administer the shot. We were able to attend a training. Both Eileen and I went to a training about a month or so ago, 3 weeks ago, and we got some advisement on doing some electronic billing. Eileen was wonderful in getting a lot of the paperwork together so that the town can do some electronic billing through our billing partner. So we do expect to be able to be in a better position this year for that. Keep going?
Oh yeah,
okay.
keep moving.
Solid waste. Just wanted to give you an update. The Solid Waste Advisory Committee is through their summer schedule, and they're starting to meet monthly again. We have a meeting coming up, I think it's this week or next, and they are starting to look at discussion for contracts for the solid waste disposal. So that is that will be in the next year. Tobacco. I wanted to just bring to your attention some of the advisories that have come down from MDPH in your packet. I just wanted to let you know we have gotten a couple of advisories from Mass Department of Public Health on something called synthetic cannabinoids. It's a lot of what they're seeing. I think you've probably seen it on the news up in New Hampshire. They had some products that kids are kind of attracted to. They sell them in different kid flavors, bubble gum, and various fruit flavors. I think they're sold kind of as incense, but the kids are taking those kind of products and smoking them. There's been a lot of overdoses related to them, a lot of synthetic designer drugs that are being laced with all different chemicals. So there's a lot going on right now with the state getting out these kind of advisories, a lot of concern and advisement to try to keep kids away from it, and just to bring awareness to what's out there. I think it kind of goes in line with what we've been talking about for the past several months since Worcester Regional Tobacco Coalition came out to kind of let us know there's all different products out there. You know, they do the cigarellos, they make it in fruit flavors, they put it in, you know, single serve packaging. So it makes all these things more attractive to kids, and that's kind of who they're aiming it towards. So again, just to let you know, these advisories came through recently. Both of them were the beginning of actually last week, both in September. So we sent those over to the website as well, just to get the word out to the public. Finally, we have the arbovirus prevention. The state, as you know, sends out the weekly arbovirus report, and they've had one case of West Nile, and thank God no human cases of Triple E. But they continue testing. They usually do testing typically through September, and they'll be wrapping that up in the next coming weeks. But we continue to get those weekly reports, and you know, to keep the word out there that, you know, with all the games and outdoor activities that the families are doing to try to keep the word of using the prevention, checking your kids, making sure you're checking for ticks, also Lyme disease is a big concern, and protection against mosquitoes. We have the MHOA conference is going to be in October. That's the yearly conference that gets out a lot of information to public health professionals, and we are looking forward to that. So that, even though we're in September, that one's going to come soon. So I just want to kind of keep it on our radar. And I think that is most of what I wanted to give you an update on. Just a lot of the correspondence that has gone through. We have several cases going on right now that we're following. A lot of complaints coming in, trash and housing complaints, and I think that's the update. I have one more correspondence actually that I'll just pass over to Steve.
Yep.
One for Mary. Okay, so that should, oh, in emergency preparedness, we just had our recent Region 2 meeting.
Yep.
Was last week, so I just wanted to give you an update on that. They are looking at also the deliverables of being identified, what is new for this year. Those haven't been completely identified right now, but the funding for our region has come through. There are several projects that are going to be put in place. We have 2 projects and 2 training exercises that are going to be required. The group discussed those and have some possibilities on what they're looking at, possibly an arbovirus prevention model of getting that out to the state. With the recent concerns for Ebola that have really ramped up in the news, they're looking at, again, trying to get the word out, what's the best way to reach the most amount of people when there's a concern like that. Obviously, there's concerns not just worldwide, but it being close to home as well. So there was discussions about that, and I continue to meet with Ken, our preparedness consultant, to get our plans going.
What's his name?
Ken Geekus.
Jesus, okay.
Yeah.
He's Westboro too.
Oh, nice.
We were talking about him today because
Yeah.
I have some stuff I have to do for him. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay. So Ken, I've met with him a couple of times. He's been very easy to work with, and he's already get going on our preparedness documents. The LEPC committee, Local Emergency Planning Committee, Management Committee, I'm sorry, LEMPC. They are meeting monthly as well, and I think we had a meeting scheduled for today, but it's actually going to be rescheduled. We are going to be doing a certification to try to get our LEPC certified with the state. So there's a lot of really good emergency planning going on in the town, and we are part of the discussions and part of the group. So it trying to stay on top of, keeping us as prepared as possible should anything happen.
Yep.
So that is I think the most recent activity in the past weeks. Is there any questions that you have for me on any of those? As far as, I'm not sure, we must be close to.
But if there's nobody coming in, we can push that off and go through our thing and then do that one at the
Okay.
end.
Sure.
If no one, do you know if anybody's coming for that?
Yeah, I just wanted to give you an update. I don't believe Ms. Sullivan is going to be able to make it
Okay.
for the request
Okay.
at
Then
the hearing.
that's fine. We can go through the rest of our thing and we can do that at the end. It's
Okay.
not a problem because if someone's here, I'd want to get them out in time. We can always start late. We just can't start early.
Okay,
So
sounds
that's
great.
fine. We'll just keep it moving.
Okay. So for inspections, We have, Eileen is here to report on the recent activity. We had a pretty busy weekend with the relay
Relay
that
at the- oh, yeah.
happened, so I know she can give you an update on that. And I know she has some frozen dessert requirements, just a discussion that we've had on general requirements for monthly testing and just making sure that we're keeping track of what we're supposed to be doing for establishment compliance. So I'll let Eileen.
For the Relay for Life, it went off without a hitch. It was pretty well attended. We had a survivors dinner, which they served approximately 145 people. They cooked it all on site. It was a great dinner. We had 4 full-service food vendors that ranged from cotton candy to French fries to soup. And then we had just about 4 or 5 that did baked goods, donuts in the morning, coffee. So it was pretty standard fare. They were all set up, ready to go, and the inspections went well. We also had several other temporary events. Sheldon's, I don't know if you noticed, it was a big tent out front. They had customer appreciation weekend. They gave away a bicycle. That was catered, but they do have an annual food permit as well. We did the Booster Club, Pop Warner, and the soccer for the concession stand. So they were all 3 groups are permitted to use the concession stand. And then we had about 3 or 4 more temporary food permits of events that are going on in town. And 1 plan review. We have Extreme Golf, which has we've just completed the kitchen review for them.
And where's that going to be located?
Route 20.
Oh, okay, yep.
Next to Motorsports.
Yep.
They've got a new building that's being constructed
Mm-hmm.
that they're outfitting different businesses, but
Yeah.
one of them is going to be Extreme Golf. They'll have
We have a kitchen. And do you want me to go on to the frozen dessert?
Yeah.
Keep moving, yep.
Yep.
So
Right ahead.
we did talk about frozen dessert, I don't know if it's the last meeting or the meeting before, and some of the testing requirements. And just based on the regulation, I reached out to the state for some questions that I have on results of some of the testing. However, I wanted to get your viewpoint on, we're winding up the end of the year. We have some seasonal, some year-round. The ones that are seasonal, I've had an opportunity to start pulling the files together and go through all the testing. And we had mentioned before that the testing for soft serve requirement is monthly, and for hard ice cream is monthly. I kind of wanted to get your opinions on if they don't produce the monthly testing.
What, they don't do it? Well, that's part of their, that's part of the code that they have to do it. So they should be either sent a letter and being brought in front of the board if they're not following. If another restaurant doesn't follow requirements, you guys either do what you have to do or you bring them here. So to
So-
me, it's the same thing. If they're not following requirements,
So I can give you some scenarios.
Okay.
Some of them are tested, and I would like to present something next year so that this can't fall through the cracks and change the dates. Some of them, for example, a lab might come out the 3rd week of the month. They go to all the establishments if someone's not ready and refuses them and asks them to come back. By the time we get the results, and I am working with the labs to get phone calls ahead of time, it now is about 5 or 6 days later, we're nearing the end of the month, I get 4 reports, I don't get the 5th. I make the call, they scurry around, have someone come out, we've now entered into the 1st or 2nd of the next month.
yeah.
So essentially, that would have been last month's. And so they're pushing it 2, 3, 4 days more. So I have some establishments that instead of having 5 tests, have 3 because they've overlapped. So I would like to see if the 3rd week of the month is the testing date for that
Then they all
lab,
have to be ready.
then that should be next month's, that's to sell next month.
Yep.
I think we've got to work on that, but I just wanted to make you aware that
Yeah.
now that I am reviewing everything, and I've worked, Ray, I agree with you, and I am making
Yeah.
the phone calls and I am sending the letters, but then all of a
Yep.
sudden, the next, 5 days, and now it's the 9th. The 18th is their regular testing
And
date.
not to make joke of it, but it's like people who go out and get it's your yearly. It's time to get your sticker
It's
for
the
your
analogy
car,
I use,
and
right.
oh, mine's the 8th, so I just wait till September 2nd and get mine. Now I get an extra month the next year. I see that with restaurants all the time, and yeah, whatever you're doing is fine. I would say I don't think you need to bring it in front of us. I would send the letters first. I think it does say in the thing that your license can be.
Absolutely, there's
can
a
be-
2 to 4 letter, which
Yep.
we did send to
Yep.
that other establishment
Yeah.
that you guys are aware of. I've sent
Yeah.
another 2 to 4
Yeah.
letter. One of the more concerning things are if they're typically an establishment that passes all the time, but if they're establishment that potentially has some field results, and now we're waiting a week before they call back, and then another
Yep.
week, and
Yeah, yeah.
and then they go into another month.
And,
with
and
it.
how many weeks have they been serving out of out of code or out of the specified numbers? Yeah, I mean I don't know how you feel.
Well, and how consistently they're doing this as well.
Yes,
If-
if you have the same persons doing like they're doing 3 out of 5 months all the time,
All the time.
they're only doing 8 a year instead of the 12 that they should be doing a year if they're a yearly one. Now we have an issue.
Right.
Well, here's the thing, I mean, it's not really, if we wanna keep everybody held to the same standard,
Mhm.
it makes sense to have somebody, if the way Eileen is explaining it, if they're going into technically the next month, that test that they do, that should be for the previous month. You know what I mean? It
Then they'll
doesn't,
still need another one.
exactly.
And that's the slot I'm putting them in.
Yep.
I'm,
Right.
Right.
regardless of when they take it into the next month, I'm satisfying the month before.
Yep. So if they
And-
take it on September 2nd and they never took it in August, that goes to August. Now they may need one the 25th again. If they say, well, I already took it in September, does it? No, that one was August. Yeah,
Right.
I'm
And that-
I'm fine with that.
That's why we want
Yeah.
the board's interpretation, that's the way we're interpreting it. If somebody's behind on a test because, they weren't ready or they, ran out of product or something, okay, so when you take that test, it goes to.
Yeah, well, you're not skipping a month.
Right,
You're-
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's part of the permitting.
Mm-hmm.
It's like everybody else. You're supposed to get 2 inspections a year, and the same thing with this. If you're supposed to do something that has to do with your permit, the permit can be revoked. Can be we can hold the permit. We can do there's things we can do that hasn't been done in the past, but we can step in and say, okay, you can't sell for this week because you're not following directions. And I hate to say it's tough love, but that's what it comes down to. Is we want the restaurants in town to do what they need to be doing, but we have to keep the people safe and make sure everything's good. So yeah, you guys make that decision. I mean, I'm fine with that.
And this-
Letters,
Run late, miss a month, send a letter. Second time that happens.
they got to come in front of us. We can read the
Okay.
riot act too. It's
Yeah.
sometimes I hate to say it, but sometimes they just kind of say, okay, whatever. And it's the same thing, and it's nothing against you guys, but the way it was in the past when we didn't have an extra inspector, things got lost, and it's not Andy's fault either. But it would be like, all right, well, hey, let's get it for next month,
Right.
and we were putting out fires. Now we should be ahead of things. We should
Absolutely.
be.
Yeah.
I know,
And-
and the labs are working with us, Ray.
Yeah.
I get a immediate email when someone says, I'm not ready to be tested.
Yeah.
So I have the ability to call them next day, which I have.
Yep.
And now I'm still waiting, and,
Yeah.
at some point, I want to make sure.
Now
we understand it.
my opinion, and Steve you can make the decision on the street level. You guys can say, okay, we're sending a letter today. We're doing this. We're going to bring you in front of the board. Because if they're not doing what you need to be doing, you're asking them to do stuff. You're being nice. You're saying, hey, look, this is the way things are going. If they're not doing it, they're not following what they signed up for when they asked for a frozen ice cream, a frozen treat license. So you guys can handle it on your own up to that point, and then if it gets too much, like Steve said, once, okay, let's get the letter out,
Things
let's get you
happen.
done, things happen. The second and third time, and now it's becoming a pattern. I have no problem saying, hey, Ray, we're going to bring someone from the board.
Yeah.
And I don't think Steve has a problem with that either,
No.
because sometimes it takes that little, like that fire under their tail to get things moving in the right direction. Not saying you guys don't do enough of that, but sometimes if they see you a lot, they're just kind of like, oh, whatever. And that's what I'm saying with Andy, is a lot of that, well, not Andy, but just in the past, Matt was here, Andy was here, they were behind. So they didn't get a lot of that stuff done. Now we have a staff that can get the stuff done. Let's do it, and we're going to support you. So that's where I look at it.
So one of my thoughts, Ray, was when the labs want to do end of the month, third
Mhm.
week of the month. I was looking at putting together a package to present to you guys and I'm waiting on some word from the state that test would be so they could sell the next month. So if they take it the 20th and I'm getting it the 24th, if I don't have it by the 1st,
They can't sell until we get that.
yeah, if we kind of look at the dates that your test is to show that you're clear
You're
to sell
clear
the
to
next
sell for the
month.
next step.
Because that's how their first test starts in seasonal.
Right.
We don't let them start operation
Until
until
they-
we get the test.
Yep.
So that test is for forward.
Yep.
Um,
And it makes sense.
It's basically getting a, you know, you're getting a clean bill of test.
Yeah,
Mhm.
saying
So
that
in
you're
order
allowed
to
to sell.
move forward and to basically, you know,
Mhm.
be able to engage in that product, you're getting ahead of time.
Yep.
So that's the way we want it to work. And I mean, Eileen has spent a lot of time, you know, working with the reg, contacting the state, and you know, we've had definitely some follow through in the past several months. You know,
Mhm.
we've talked about this at previous meetings and had you know, some discussions with establishments, and we just want to, again, we want everybody to be, some establishments are ahead of it and on top of it, and you don't have to, you know,
Yeah.
fight the fire, but we just want to stay ahead so that we're the same for
Yep.
everybody.
Yep.
And it makes it easier, I think, once you know what's expected,
Yeah.
you know, to kind of follow
Mhm.
it.
How many different labs do we have in town that are doing it?
we have two.
G&L and Microbac, usually.
Microbac and Morel.
Morale.
And Morel. G&L's closer to Boston.
Mhm.
All right, so do they both pick up right around the third week, or?
No, Morel's got a different schedule. Morel we're working with because they could be providing us with more timely reports.
Okay.
Yeah.
They might be doing it around the first week of the
Okay.
month, but I'm not getting the report till about the third week.
Oh, okay.
So it's about 3 weeks, but by regulation, they really only have 3 days.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so we're working on putting together a letter to send to
Mhm.
them with the reg and to see
Okay.
if they can send us electronic transmission.
Yeah.
They're still doing it by mail.
Yeah.
Um,
Because it's just, you know, I know what you're saying. If we're getting it on the third, and that's for the next one, I don't want you chasing some at the beginning of the month, some at the end of the month. I'd love to see them all picked up in the third week of the month. I
Well,
think
that's why
that'd be
we're,
great.
we're
That's why
hoping
we're
that
working,
maybe,
yeah.
we're hoping maybe technology
Mhm.
might help there, you know, if they can send it by email. They might
Yeah.
not be set up on email, we're not sure.
And we
but,
are working
yeah, we're gonna
extensively
try to
with them.
work
Like,
with them.
they work with their clients if they get a field one and help them
Yeah.
to
Mhm.
achieve the necessary
Exactly.
results to get a passing one.
Mhm.
But we're working with them because even if that happens, we need to have that
Yeah.
result as well. And so they've
Mhm.
been good working with us. Now we got to get them
Yeah.
to shorten the time.
Yeah.
If someone's field, we don't want to know 3 weeks later.
We want to know right away. So
Yeah,
we can work
so
on
we
that.
are working with them, and through that, Ray, I'm
Mhm.
thinking I'll find out when exactly they do
Yeah,
come.
if they could give us a set and they say, okay, you know, if we find out from one lab that they're going to pick up on, you know, in the third week of the month, we can talk to the other one. Does the third week work for you? Because it'd be great to get all of them in a batch.
Yep.
So you're not getting
Yeah.
15 and this week and another 30 in this week. I mean, I don't know how many we have in
Mm-hmm.
town, but I'm just saying for numbers. You want to make sure if we can get them all in a batch, boom, you can look through them all and say, hey, we're all set for the month of August.
Right, and I want to make sure when you're dealing with two different labs that the results we're getting are consistent. I want all field, even if they have a passing after.
Yeah.
Even if they've done a retest and had a passing, I want
Oh, yeah.
the entire thing. And
Yeah.
so we have to work to make sure that,
Yeah,
you
we
know,
should be getting.
our requirements
Yeah.
meet the states and
Exactly.
that they're meeting them.
Well, it's required by the regulation as well, whether
Mhm.
it's pass or fail, that we get a copy
Copy.
of it.
Exactly.
So
Good.
we're, you know, it is, you know, kind of towards the end of the season, but we have some places that sell year round. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we're dealing with two,
Mm-hmm.
you know, two areas of establishments, but we're trying to make the process seamless,
Yeah.
you know, going forward. So we made a lot of progress, you know, from last year to this year, and I think this year to next year, I think we'll definitely make it easier.
That's good. All right, great. Anything else?
New establishment, I'm just gonna jump in.
Yep.
We do have Outback, I'm sure
They're
you've
moving,
seen.
yeah.
Yeah, Outback is going to be making the move in the next, I think, 4 to 6 weeks. So we'll keep you updated on that as well. Eileen's already working with them about some proposed dates.
Yeah, we do have one that Paula just reminded me that, I don't know, I'm sure you saw in the news that CVS decided to stop selling tobacco early.
Mm-hmm.
And so our store is cleared out. There is no more tobacco, and they've taken a health initiative and filled that in.
When they're gonna change their name on the signs?
I don't think they're going to.
No, they're just gonna be known as CVS Health.
CVS.
Yes, CVS
They're just
Health
not
in the
gonna change-
background, I don't think they're going to change their signs.
I mean,
From
think
what-
of how many signs they'd have to change.
Yeah, from what I've heard, I think they're going to keep it, but
I wonder if any of the new ones they build are gonna, like, 'cause I know they're building a brand new one in Framingham. I wonder if they're
Oh, I
gonna
wonder
throw
if
the
they
sign.
you know, they could probably add just a little bit
thing
on
on
the
the bottom.
bottom.
Yeah,
But that was welcoming news,
Yeah.
that they had decided
yeah. I got
to
that. I
go
got that
early.
email at work and
Yeah.
everything. So
Mhm.
that's great. All right.
And then for communicable disease, I do have, Cheryl gave the monthly report.
Yeah.
Any questions, Steve?
All seasonal,
Okay.
very expected.
That's why I hand it to you. Okay.
All right, so we have, the next meeting we have scheduled for September 22nd, that's 2 weeks.
Mhm.
And I know we had talked about at the last meeting, maybe a change of time, so it's
If
up
it
to
works, if it works for everybody else, I know we've been running, some of the meetings been running late and we've been running into the selectmen's meeting. And I know they have to, can't stop ours to go to the other one. If it works for you, I can do a half hour earlier.
I'm fine.
If 5:30
I'm
works.
fine all day, so.
Yeah, okay.
5:30?
So, yeah, because I'm leaving work at 4:30. I'm back in town by 5 o'clock, but I figure 5:30 gives me, in case there's traffic. Plus it helps you guys, you don't stay late, and that way you're not rushing at the end of the night to get out of here at 7 o'clock, you know. I think that'll help out. It used to be 4:30 when I was working in town, but I can't do that
So
anymore.
we'll start at 5:30?
5:30 on the 22nd. Does the 22nd still work for you?
Yes.
I'll have to double check.
Double
but I don't
check it,
see
yeah.
any- I don't see any
Right
issues
now,
at this point.
it works for me. I have one also on the 23rd for Westboro, so.
Made some changes to my schedule at work, so it's either gonna be, I'm here no matter what time,
Or,
or after 8 o'clock. So,
well, we'll work on that. We'll figure all that out.
What we can do is, I can send something out to the whole board,
Right.
and that'll give you a chance to check your schedule. If that date doesn't work, then maybe we can,
well, normally the second and fourth month, I'm requesting that off every month.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
From work, so
Yeah.
that I'm, again, I'm off,
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
available all day.
yep,
And if there's nothing pressing coming up,
we can always hold
we
it.
can always
Mhm,
hold it if you
mhm,
get
mhm.
caught up with anything anyways,
Sure.
so.
Sure.
All right, at this point, it is 6:30, wait for it. Oh, wait, 3 more seconds. It's 6:37. I'd like to open the hearing for 14 Kimball Road, request for a well variance. They want to retain the well for the use of irrigation purposes only, but are going to hook up to town water supply for
Yes.
the interior of the house.
Yep, so we, in your packet, you do have a copy of the request from Ms. Patricia Sullivan. She lives at 14 Kimball Road. Recently, the town has run, the Auburn Water District, quasi public agency, has
Elm.
run,
Elm Hill,
oh, is that Elm Hill?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you,
I'm not
Paula.
sure which way they
Okay.
come from.
I know they come up from both, and it's almost like
Yeah.
ships in the night. They come close to each other, but they
They
don't
split,
touch.
yeah.
Yeah. So Auburn Water District comes from that side of Packagug, and then Elm Hill comes from the other. So Elm Hill has run the water lines down the street. She is considering connecting to town water. However, she wanted to request permission to keep the well for irrigation purposes.
Mhm.
Now, according to the well regulation that we have, if there's a connection to public water, you are supposed to decommission the existing well. There is in the regulation, if the well is discontinued for 6 months or longer, it's not suitable for use. However, unless permission is granted by the Board of Health to use for agricultural purposes. And I know this regulation is pretty old,
Mhm.
and I know that you've had this in place for a while. I know that the board has sometimes entertained requests for wells to be used, if somebody wants to use for gardening, to kind of save on what the water that they'd have to get and pay for. So that is the request before the board. This resident, did everything the right way. She has not connected, however, she's trying to get the information ahead of time
Yep.
to see if the board would consider that request.
Okay.
I did go to the site today, and while Ms. Sullivan was not home, I did view the well head. It's in the rear of the property, and the access to the public water supply obviously is going to be in the front of the property. There, it looked like a typical above ground piping and so forth. And I think that this is the first one that I've seen. I'm sure Andy has had discussions with you regarding others, but obviously
Above ground piping, you mean wellhead?
the wellhead.
Okay.
So this was not a defined wellhead. There was some piping there. So again, there may be some, a more formed wellhead below ground, but there is some piping above.
What's the size of the lot?
Size of the lot, it's a smaller lot.
I think there's 7,500 square feet in that area.
I don't have the assessor's card at this time. They tend to be smaller type lots. I think years ago they may have been homes for the veterans when they came home. A lot of them are on slab, if I'm not mistaken. And we have had well issues in the past up there. I'm sure you remember several years ago. I'm thrilled to see that the district has extended public water lines down there. And I'd love to see everybody connect to public water. But again, it is somebody's choice to do that.
Okay. Any other evidence to be given?
I don't believe so.
Evidence of agricultural practice at the location?
There's no indication that
Okay.
there's a big, huge farm or anything there.
No, not on the fifth of an acre, but it's just all manicured lawn.
It looks similar, yeah, very similar to just a manicured backyard. My, one thing that I would like to just offer is, again, I'm sure the board has heard these requests before. My only concern would be, if the board makes a decision to move forward with approval, I would just want to recommend a condition to make sure that we would make sure that it was okay with the district. So if I wouldn't want there to be any cross-contamination issues with having both the public water supply and the well. I believe that the connections are taken care of with the proper backflow preventers and so forth. But again, with the property having both public and private, I just want to make sure that we have some sort of assurance that the two aren't going to cross.
Do you have any recent well tests from the neighborhood?
Not from this property.
Okay.
We do have some notifications for environmental concerns from DEP on Clarendon Road.
I remember years gone by, there were a number of issues
Absolutely.
with the wells in those neighborhoods.
And more recent issues as well.
Similar?
Similar.
Okay.
So that Clarendon is actually one street over from Kimball. Again, she is identifying that she would like to keep the well active for irrigation of her yard. She's not indicating that she wants to use it to offset any private water supply.
I mean, because right now, if she decides no, she doesn't have to hook up to the municipal water supply.
Correct.
So she'd be using it for drinking water anyways.
Again, I mean, you know, I think my advisement would be just, we want to see people connect to public
Yep.
water when possible,
Mm-hmm.
you know, especially in areas of concern,
Yeah.
or past concerns.
We'd have to find out information from the Elm Hill and what their standards are.
Correct.
They say if you hook up, you have to decommission definitely, then we can't, I'm not gonna step over what their
Sure.
what they say.
Yep.
But if they're like, if they just wanna use it for irrigation, it's gonna cut down the water usage coming out of their pipes anyways. Yeah, they're gonna lose a little bit of money, but it's not gonna, I don't think it's gonna affect them that much for the amount of watering.
Is there anything specific in the state and or town plumbing code in regards to having the two systems?
I wouldn't speak to the plumbing code without checking with the plumbing inspector.
Okay.
I would just refer to, like, if the board would entertain that request based upon what's written in our regulation, they would have to do it in accordance, and we can certainly write that approval conditionally upon what your advisement is, but I would say it would all have to be done in accordance with plumbing code, signed off by the plumbing inspector, done by a licensed plumber, and, you know, we can follow that route. That's typically the way we're gonna do any work that's gonna involve something that is of a professional tradesman.
Any other evidence or discussion?
And so-
You're combining both evidence and discussion?
Well, you guys were discussing, so.
Well, no, I was asking questions for
Yeah.
evidence.
Yeah,
The evidence
then
on
we
plumbing
can, we
code.
can,
So, motion to close evidentiary?
second motion?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, discussion?
So without a specific understanding, 15 years ago, sitting on the board, these were discussed, these were brought before the board before. Changes in the plumbing code, of course, may or may not have occurred in the 15 years as far as the water district with any specific concerns in regards to maintaining the well. How does it affect them? I'm not sure. Obviously, in years gone by, when we previously approved this type of request, it was for a much larger parcel property. There were very specific conditions on the variance request that there was complete severance of the two systems. So there was no even need for backflow to protect the wellhead, but there was a complete division between the two, the water system and the well. I guess that would be the big question, is would the plumbing code even allow the two separate systems on one property, one structure?
Well, town code or state?
Either.
State allows.
Okay.
In Westboro, if you want to water your lawn, you have to have your own well.
Okay.
If you're on town water, you cannot, any new developments have to
Mhm.
put their own wells in for watering of the
Right.
property, just because their town wells are draining.
Right.
So they make people put in their own. So I don't feel there's a problem with the state. It would be if the town has one.
Right.
So
So-
I know that, because when I was reading the whole thing, I'm like, this is run of the mill in Westboro. We make sure people, especially new, old developments, they can do their own, but
Yeah.
any new, they have to, if they want to irrigate their lawn, they have to, or put an irrigation system in,
Mhm.
they have to drill their own well.
Irrigation well in.
So,
Mhm.
but so that's a little different. This one is getting rid of one and hooking up to
Right,
the other. So,
right.
but that's So I know the state code's gotta be okay. If Westboro, they require the whole town to do it, businesses also. So, they're trying to get people off from watering their lawn and using the town water supply to
Yeah.
water your lawn, so they're making people drill their own wells.
I'm trying to also understand what the risk to the environment, what
No.
the risk to the aquifer would be. Are they in a recharge for the wellhead, the Auburn District wellheads?
I don't know. I would have
Yeah.
to check.
And again, I know that we've had problems with a number
Yeah.
of those wells in that neighborhood in the past.
So my concern is this: if they don't get on, they still irrigate their lawn with their own well. It's the same issue we're gonna have if they're on town water and irrigating with their own well.
But I think there's a much more higher incentive to be sure that water's clean if you're drinking it, as opposed to just
Yes.
something you're squirting on the lawn.
No, and I understand that. I'm just saying that either way, they could be irrigating, and it's going to get into the aquifer. With if they're using their own well water and doing it now, what's the? I mean, I understand what you're saying about the clean water, but I think we can do that with testing the water, doing a water test on it. But I do think if they're irrigating now and they have their own well, then the same thing's going to happen if they decide to tie on to town water and they irrigate their own well, and they still irrigate their lawn out of their own well. The same water's going down. I don't know. Do you understand what I'm saying? Where yeah. So I understand what you're saying, but we can put conditions. Right now, we can't put conditions on their own personal well, but if they do tie into the town, we can put conditions.
Right, I mean, again, just the site visit from today, I did not see a clear wellhead.
Okay.
So if you were going to, either if you were going to approve or deny, my recommendation to Ms. Sullivan would be to make sure that we got a well cap that's intact, that's sanitary, that's, not going to invite contamination.
Yep.
And no one was ever able to determine the source of the problems that were occurring in the neighborhood previously?
No, that,
No.
there was much investigation, and not, I think, any clear, cause of issues. And, certainly in the environment, it's not always black and white.
No.
The aquifer is constantly changing. So problems that, it's a problem that is, it's a problem area. So the fact that they have public water available, I mean, I'm thrilled.
Yeah. Is it downstream from the water district wells?
It's up. I think it's up. Where Kimball is, and the district wells.
It's topographically, yeah, it's higher elevation, but where's the bottom of the well? Is that downstream from the aquifer, the water district?
the
End of
Yeah.
Southbridge Street Court is a town well.
Right,
Yeah.
down behind the ball field.
Yeah.
That's
And
the
we don't
closest well.
have,
I mean, I know the way that the diversion tunnel runs is away from the town wells.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And those wells up in that neighborhood basically go down below the diversion tunnel.
and we don't have specific depth on this existing well. It looks like Ms. Sullivan did have a
Must
test
have
done
been
on
300 to
coliform back
500.
in 2005, which
Yeah.
was 0.
Again, I'm just trying to
No.
come to an understanding as to the risk of the environment, the risk of the Auburn Water District wellheads, leaving that well in place. Knowing the history of the transient nature of failures up there, is it even putting a requirement for testing on? Is,
I think a strong recommendation for testing. If you want to require testing generally, I think you'd have to build it into your regulation.
Okay.
But because this is coming before you, you can certainly approve or
Right,
deny.
right.
If you approve, you can approve with conditions.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's certainly your
Right,
option.
right.
Or if you feel that it's not something that you're inclined to do because of the area and the history, you certainly, you know, have that option as well. I mean, you can certainly do the, if you move to approve it, you can certainly put the conditions on that all the connections have to be checked by a licensed plumber, have to be inspected by the town's plumbing inspector, so that you're not going to have, you know, any siphonage, any problems with
no.
cross connection.
Yeah.
And certainly the, you know, the wellhead is something that we would recommend anyways, even if she's,
Right.
even if Ms. Sullivan is gonna use it only for irrigation,
Right.
you don't want contamination going into.
Definitely,
Well,
yeah.
this is,
aquifer
I'm very comfortable knowing that any motion that's made could very easily protect the Elm Hill Water District.
Mm-hmm.
Very cut and dry, total separation of the two systems. My concern and what I'm trying to bounce off you guys is where can we help protect the Auburn Water District wells if they're even at any risk? Knowing again, you know, how many tests have been done, and neighbors up in that neighborhood, homeowners have told me they're going to stop testing because the wells were coming up so positive all the time. So how many tests are we not having done because people don't want to run them now?
Yeah.
Or, you know, how much risk, and again, what's the risk to the environment leaving this irrigation well in? What's the risk to the Auburn Water District wellheads? What, they're about a half mile upstream?
I don't know how far, I'm
Yeah.
not exactly sure.
Yeah. You know, and if there's no risk or very limited risk, do we put the financial burden on the homeowner to test the well? To what end? Test the well for what? To shut them down when it's positive a few times? Remediation?
Well, I think they could also, you know, say, are we testing it? You know, I don't think, I think the intention, and again, I don't want to speak for her, but if you're in that position to ask for irrigation, you're probably not going to want to expend money to test it
Yeah.
to water your lawn.
Right.
You know, obviously, a valid concern if it's a drinking water well, obviously we would recommend testing
Right.
all
Yeah.
day long.
For the end user, but again, we're still looking at the community. How many other people are in that
Correct.
neighborhood still using
Yep.
drinking wells?
Right.
Yep.
How many of them opted not to connect?
Yeah.
You know, a well that's going to be used a couple of months out of the year.
Yeah.
I mean, you definitely have,
And where's the risk? Where's
Yeah.
the risk of aquifer contamination?
And to my point, what I was saying too is if we say we deny it and she uses her well anyways to irrigate, we're looking at the same thing. You know what I mean? There's no.
The risk is still there. Yes.
The risk is still there. We just have to figure out where we're gonna go from there. Right now, if we deny it, then we have no testing. We can't do anything.
Well,
about
it's
it.
still at her discretion for her
Exactly.
own personal
Yeah,
consumption.
exactly. But if we do approve, we can require testing on that well. If she decides, no, I don't want to test, I don't want to do it, and keeps her well the way she wants to, then, you know, that's going to be her call if she's going to just test it on her own. But if she's, I don't know.
but the well cap, I mean,
Well, the well cap, yeah. From what you had said, I want to have a protected well cap on there.
sure.
No
Number one.
photographs of it.
Either
though.
way,
So,
I'm sorry.
no, he asked if you had any
You
photographs.
don't have any photographs of the wellhead or anything.
I do.
See, these are the ones that could be on the TV.
I knew you were gonna say that.
But these
I
were
like
taken,
these toys.
These were taken from the street where you had.
Okay. So, this is the house,
Mm-hmm.
and if you go to the left, so
Okay.
that's the house from the street. The next one is going to be, looking into the where the well,
That's-
wishing well is,
Oh, I see.
Okay, that's the wooden wishing well, and
Yep.
that's the piping at the top.
the piping.
Okay.
It's covered by a bucket.
Yep. So the piping, as you can see, what we want to see is a sealed well cap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's not what I'm seeing.
No.
So,
There's gonna be
Eh.
4 inches of area there that's wide open.
And that's a,
well, there's piping that's coming
Coming
up,
out of it.
and it might be
PVC?
part of the pump.
is that,
Yeah.
okay.
It might be part of the well pumping.
Uh-huh.
Each well is, you know, depending on how old it is, might be a
Right.
little different.
But no steel casing?
I did not see a steel casing.
Okay, but like you said, it may be,
It might be
No.
some of
Under-
the pumping,
It could be
piping.
underground.
Underneath that, that's
Say
what I'm
that 10
figuring.
times fast.
It's coming up out of here.
okay.
Either
And
side.
that feeds the house, that pipe, that copper that comes out of the PVC?
So,
So is that
My-
what the feeding tube is to go towards the house?
so I suspect that that is part of the pump, the pumping plumbing.
Mm-hmm.
That's pulling the water
And
up
then it
from
comes
out
up
of the
and then it
ground
goes underground
and
to the
into the
house.
dwelling.
Yeah, okay.
So again, there might be a cap that's buried, but what I'm suggesting to the board is whether you deny or approve the request, that we would want to fix this
Yes.
situation
Mm-hmm.
so that we have a best chance for more sanitary water supply. And again, not having
Can I
any
see the regs again, please?
well testing.
Point.
Point 14 is what we're talking about, but as far as the casing for the well, bacteria testing.
Casing, I believe, is going to be on the front.
I'm sorry?
I think front
Please.
page. The well casing on the front.
Construct figure trail.
I mean, we can certainly continue it to the next meeting if that's something that
I'm
makes you
trying
feel more
to,
comfortable.
maybe we can find out where the other wells are located? Because that's one of your concerns there is the
Well, and just about all the houses up there have their own wells,
wells.
so.
I can bring a district map. I actually made myself a note already. You know, district map to
Mhm.
show you the location of the
Mhm.
adjacent wells. I mean, I think
Right.
I feel comfortable saying that there's quite a few private drinking water supplies
There are.
between Clarendon, Kimball, and extended in and around that area. That's not a real surprise to me.
My main concern right now is what to do with that wellhead, or
Okay.
lack thereof. It's a
Yeah.
piece of PVC coming out of the
The
ground
ground
with
where the
copper,
copper, yeah.
probably from the
And
pump.
there's, the pipe's coming out and there's still all that gap, like you said, buried, there could be a wellhead below and that's just open to the wellhead down below,
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
But still, we don't know, and I'd rather see a
And-
more
and,
sanitary.
you know, and
Right. A more sanitary cap, I think, is going to be, you know, obviously the advisement,
Of
you
either
know, that
way,
I said
yeah.
earlier.
well,
of-
for well requirement for a drilled well, which I assume this is.
Yeah, I don't think it's a dug well.
No. Must have a casing of 6 inches in diameter set at least 15 feet into the bedrock. Top of the casing must be at least 6 inches above ground level.
And
No.
I think it might be good to point out also, these regulations are typically what new wells
Which is-
are.
which
You know,
is a
I mean,
new
this
well,
is an
right,
existing
right.
well, and obviously it's coming to our attention because of a request being
Yeah.
brought before us.
Mhm.
I mean, we're not
No, I'm not
we're
gonna
not
make
the
it go
well
down.
police
Yeah, exactly,
to
go down
go
15
around
feet.
into everybody's
Right,
yard.
right.
But because this one's coming before us,
Yeah.
obviously, it gives us the chance to give education and
Mhm.
advisement on how to make a more sanitary water supply.
So how can we protect that? Make any alterations, changes, otherwise?
So,
We did a similar, the well over on Berlin Street as an example a few weeks ago. We had the homeowner make modifications to secure it, but,
but that
Again.
was also part of a new well being drilled.
right.
Yeah.
So that was,
But that-
disconnecting from
Mhm.
that,
The shared
the
well.
shared well
Mhm.
to
Right.
the new well. So
Mhm.
obviously, you had a little
Yeah.
more, I guess, involvement.
Yeah.
This one is a request, a little
Right.
bit different, but obviously, with the concerns that we're seeing, we
Mhm.
can either way go forward with
Yeah.
the advisement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, either way, I'd want to see
Yeah.
that
That's
wellhead.
when they first went into effect.
Yeah.
Those laws were put in way before that.
Mhm. So, generally speaking, I'm feeling no big issue about allowing
Mm-hmm.
an irrigation well
Yeah,
for lawn and garden irrigation.
as long as it is okay with
No.
Elm Hill, whatever their.
As long as there's no other prohibitions through
Yeah,
the state
exactly.
town plumbing code,
Mm-hmm.
of which again, you had mentioned it's allowed by state code, so as long as it's not prohibited
Yeah.
by the town plumbing code, having
And-
specific
and Elm Hill.
segregation of the two systems, and Elm Hill, thank you,
Yeah.
having specific segregation of the two systems with annual testing of the irrigation well.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm trying to struggle with, what do we do with that well head?
Yeah, exactly.
That looks like an open tube down to the aquifer.
So you could, as part of if you were going to allow the well to be kept
Mhm.
in accordance with, again, it's okay with Elm Hill Water District,
Mhm.
it's okay with plumbing code, it's allowed by plumbing code.
Mhm.
You could do the approval conditioned upon
The repair of the.
right. So you'd have
Okay.
the repair of the well cap,
Mhm.
so that it would have to be a sanitary sealed well cap, so that it's not going to be open to contamination
Mhm.
of the aquifer.
That puts the wording in place nicely. But,
No, I'm good. I'm good with that. I mean, once I saw the picture, it
Yeah,
kind of because I was like, okay, yeah, pipe coming out of the ground. But then when I saw the picture, I went,
Yeah.
yeah, that's got to be fixed.
all right. So if I may make a motion,
First, we need to close discussion if that's the motion you want to make.
that's the motion I'm going to make.
Okay.
Motion to close the discussion,
I second the motion.
Aye. and then I'll make a motion to allow the variance requested to maintain a well for irrigation purposes at 14 Kimball Road with the following conditions. There are no prohibitions by the local plumbing code or Elm Hill Water District. That the two systems are completely and irrevocably separated within the house. The annual coliform testing is performed on the irrigation well, and that the wellhead is upgraded to have a sealed and sanitary cap. Did I think I got everything?
I think you did too. I was counting it out.
Thank you.
Was
If
yep.
I could just clarify, the coliform testing, do you want coliform slash like E. coli, like a waste? Because
Yes.
coliform
I'm sorry.
can indicate
Bacterial testing.
bacteria.
I'll rephrase. Reword that to bacterial testing to include
Annually,
annually.
Anything else that we can think of before I second? Because I know last week I had to pull
Right.
back my second.
Right.
as long as there's no
Prohibitions from
Yeah,
the
from-
town.
Well, that was the
Elm
first
Hill Water
first
District.
condition, that it's not prohibited by
By-
town plumbing code or Elm Hill.
Well, if there's nothing, I'm trying to think if there's anything else missing.
So
So at this
a
point,
complete separation
Yep.
of the two systems.
the wellhead is fixed.
wellhead is
Sealed.
repaired, sealed, sanitary manner.
By a licensed
Oh
auditor,
yes,
obviously.
licensed
All according to
Yeah.
town and state
Okay.
plumbing
plumbing
codes.
codes.
Mhm.
So it'd have to be a licensed plumber and well,
Okay, so at this point, I will second that motion.
Thank you.
Want to make sure we get it all out this
Mhm,
week.
mhm.
Okay, it is a roll call vote. Steve, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ray votes aye, 2-0. Okay, I will now entertain a motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close.
I second the motion. How do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, at this point, I believe we've covered just about everything in our meeting tonight, correct?
That's correct.
And we did set the meeting for September 22nd at 5:30 unless
Mhm.
Steve runs into an issue.
No, no issue. I know
Okay.
that for now.
We
Okay.
didn't do anything about the October one, so we could do that at the next meeting.
We'll do it for the next meeting and hopefully we'll have a full board at that meeting and we can
Mhm.
set things up from there. Okay?
Yep.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Motion to close.
Oh, motion to close, second that motion. There you go.